Welcome to the Board of Education's April 29, 2025 called meeting for consideration of our fiscal year 2026 budgets. Please stand as we observe a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Dr. Butler.
Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just have a few announcements before we begin our agenda. Ms. Elkins will not be present this evening due to a school activity. And our Clothing Center Committee will meet tonight at the conclusion of this called meeting in this boardroom. Everyone is certainly welcome to stay for that meeting as well. But if you are not attending, please exit the boardroom as quickly as possible so they can get that meeting started. Are there any requested changes to the agenda?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Triplett, a second by Ms. Christie. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. On with the agenda. I do believe we have a public forum speaker before we begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Llewellyn.
Is he not here?
If I may, he's on his way. He's just not here yet.
Problem is the part of that I think he wants to speak to is the first thing on our agenda. So,
Do you know, is he like in the garage or, I know traffic was pretty bad. Is he walking in? Okay. Okay.
do we want to reverse the order and just switch and do the capital first?
You did a motion.
Sure.
Such to amend the agenda.
Yeah, I second. Okay. Motion by Ms. Bike, a second by Ms. Templeton to switch the order so our speaker has some time. All those in favor of that change? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. We'll switch the order so he's got some extra time. Ms. Coatney?
Approve the fiscal year 2026 school nutrition fund budget at the major category level for $33,760,000.
A motion by Ms. Christie, second by Reverend Butler. Do we have any discussion on this item? Ms. Faulkner-Ridley.
I just have one question. I'm not exactly sure what all that covers. Is it like the free breakfast and lunch? And do all schools get the free breakfast and lunch?
Do you, Dr. Adams, do you want to explain what the nutrition budget entails?
Madam Chair, yes, Ms. Faulkner-Ridley. So there are some schools that are identified to receive the free breakfast and lunch. However, those schools are identified. There's a formula that goes into that. This is just the regular payment that students would have and faculty and staff if they choose to eat the lunches. And so with increasing cost with not only food but delivery, it's just something that we had to address. And we normally look at this every 3 to 5 years. Also, it's very comparable to surrounding districts in our area.
So it's the overall nutrition budget. I like talking about this item when I speak to Boy Scout groups on how much it costs to run our cafeterias. So, do we have any more questions or discussion on this item? All right, seeing there's no more discussion, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Approve the fiscal year 2026 capital budget for $24,400,000.
A motion by Reverend Butler, a second by Ms. Christie. Do we have any discussion on this item? Mr. Triplett.
I have a couple of questions for Dr. Adams. I know that I'm excited about the MLD solution. South Knox definitely needs to be on there and that solution. I understand all of that. So, but I know lots of schools have, everybody probably has some parents that want to see some changes in their schools. How does one end up on the capital improvement plan?
Great question.
Madam Chair, thank you, Mr. Triplett. So normally what we do is we look at projected numbers. And so unfortunately, we normally really start talking about purchasing land and building a school when we exceed capacity. Right now, I can tell you, in your area, for example, there was one school in particular, even though we're trying to get away from the portable business, it was a school where it was absolutely necessary. And so we're doing a demo to Powell Elementary School, one of their portables that did not have a restroom in it. We're going to add 2 additional portables, which that would give a capacity for 4 classrooms. We were very fortunate to repurpose those portables from Mill Creek. They were fairly new portables, so we didn't have to purchase portables. Usually those run anywhere from $600,000 to $1 million a portable. So we did have money in the existing capital budget to accommodate Powell Elementary School. And so that normally, again, that's what we look at as projected numbers, but we really can't identify land until the need is there. And unfortunately, it is when it is exceeding capacity or very close to.
Thank you. I know you and I have been there. We've walked through Powell Elementary. Obviously, that's the school folks want to see some improvement on. We've been talking kind of off and on about it for a year or more than a year, just trying to figure all that out. So in your thoughts for them, for Powell Elementary, that's, a 5-6 year out, monitor the capacity in the buildings, see what that growth looks like, see what that needs look like, and then make that decision. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes, sir, that is correct. We also look at, as we start looking at community solutions, we also look at where there's capacity in existing schools. And so we want it to be clean, right? So we have conversations about rezoning. We look at very clean feeder patterns and where students are outside of their community. Prime example is when we looked at the Mechanicsville, Lonsdale, and Beaumont solution, there was just a section of Lonsdale that was really identified in the Mechanicsville and Beaumont area, and so that's where we would try to clean that up. If we see existing areas to where it just doesn't make sense, we go ahead and clean up that feeder pattern or zone for that particular school. We did have, and this is not uncommon, that we have a community, like a little cul-de-sac, that will reach out to us and say, can rethink rezoning a certain area for a particular school, and we have been able to accommodate that for the past 2 years.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. I've gotten lots of questions about it, so I figured I'd just ask in this setting and let you kind of answer how that process works.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, because I've heard from some Powell families about that as well. Ms. Bike?
Thank you. My question is kind of pinging off that one a little bit. Is when you're looking at the capital plan and deciding and assessing, are you using some of the information that you got from the facilities assessment that was done?
Madam Chair, Ms. Bike. So what we did is when we looked at the data from the facilities assessment, we coordinated that information with our maintenance director and his team. And so it aligned very well to some of the items that they had identified as need. The facilities assessment is really something that's going to house that information. So we'll have the software that will long live Garfield Adams and Chris Tao, who's our maintenance director. And so that information, it doesn't leave with me, right? And so it really projects where we have deferred maintenance. And so just getting aligned, and if there weren't any inconsistencies, we really did on-site visits and worked very closely with Roth Imes to see if there were any discrepancies in the actual data. So yes, that facilities assessment is a key component on the way we identify capital planning projects.
Okay. Do you think is there a plan for having facilities assessments every so often, or is it just that one and then we'll see?
That is an excellent question. So this is something that we may revisit 5 years, 10 years down the road. Right now, what this shows us is as we do the necessary maintenance or replacement of whatever it may be, what happens is those schools move in category and as far as need. And then when you start looking at the need of the schools, for instance, if you replaced a roof in a school, right, and they still remain in a low category instead of rising to the top as far as a school that was in great condition, then you would really have to assess what's going on with that school. So that shifts schools around by project. And so if we feel like it's not capturing the full assessment that we need as we start doing replacements and updates, then we would revisit that. But we feel pretty confident that as we update that information, that it gives us an accurate picture on how we move forward.
Okay. And my last question. So on that, and when assessing things and replacing stuff and making that plan, And I guess this one is specifically for Beaumont, but it kind of applies to all the schools in our district. So when we're looking at that and we're looking at what the community has put into the building and some of those extra things that are not necessarily in a classic plan to replace, kind of like some of the murals, the outdoor stage, and some things like that would potentially be direct to programming. How is that kind of factored in when you're doing this?
Certainly, and that's a great question. So we do have a Knox County Schools standard on how we build schools. When I speak specifically about a K-8 school, this is a non-traditional school, right? And it gives us a very unique opportunity to look at multiple designs and to look at programming with academics and Dr. Wilson and his team and really get an understanding of what the needs of that school are. So that's down the road, but it does give an opportunity to have unique features. I will say, when you talk about murals and things of that nature, a lot of our older buildings have murals. It's more of an update to the building. It does become very problematic as far as the maintenance of the building. And I know it has character, right? But we want to ensure that the building itself, it does not look dated. I will tell you, I've had multiple principals who stepped in, first year, second, third year principal, and they've asked for the clean, chic look in the building. They wanted it all one color, and they just wanted to designate certain areas. And so I just wanted to mention to you, when we talk about murals, that is traditionally something we've done in the past. I don't think we see that as much as we do now. But again, as far as the programming, it gives us a very unique opportunity to look at things differently. Also, with the new school in the town of Farragut, new elementary school, that is one of the largest schools that we've ever built. So we're getting outside of just the standard build. And so it does, again, give us opportunities to look at readjusting our standards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great questions, and thank you for adding that. I do believe, okay, is there any more discussion on this item? All right, we'll go ahead and vote on that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Yeah, I believe, is he here? Okay, awesome. I saw you walk in. Welcome.
John? Thank you, Madam Chair. John Llewellyn, you can come on up to the microphone, and if you will state your name and county of residence, and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, sir. My name is John Llewellyn, and I live in Knox County, and I have all my life. I went to school in Knox County. I rode school buses in Knox County. My father started driving a school bus in 1980. But anyway, I want to talk to you about the transportation budget. The transportation budget has been overlooked or been cut, and I've got several contractors with me. You gotta understand, I just got off a school bus, so I apologize for being late, and I thank you very much for letting me be here. But in the past 5 years, we've had 22% of a raise, but also in the past 5 years, 21% inflation. So we are at zero. So if we adopt the budget the way it is now, that means we're gonna get a 3 or 4% pay cut. So I would ask you to look at that. Let me give you some examples. We have made some big-time capital investments. Me, myself, my fleet, I have a fleet of 20 school buses. We've got 20 routes. We've got 27 school buses. And our fleet is very modern. We've actually bought some new buses, and we're very proud of that. But the same bus that I bought in 2020 for $123,000 is $187,000 today. That is 35% increase just in those vehicles. And then my other contractor friends that have the small buses, those buses have doubled in price, 100%. So just stupid little stuff like physicals for bus drivers were $45 and now they're $90. Our insurance, you can imagine where our insurance is. So we personally spend $500 a month on recruitment through Indeed and to recruiting to recruit bus drivers. And if y'all didn't know, in 2020, we were 60 bus drivers short as a transportation department as a whole. Not myself, we were short 4 or 5. Well, as of today, we are 20 bus drivers short. So we are really gaining on this, and we are giving some great service, and we appreciate what y'all have done. But my biggest concern is my school bus drivers. If y'all approve the budget the way it is and we don't get a raise, my lights are still going to stay on and I'm still going to eat. But $50 or $100 a month extra to a school bus driver is probably the difference between them eating and them paying their light bill and staying gainfully employed with me. Right now, I have 18 of the best school bus drivers out there, and I'm trying my best to keep these people employed. So if you would reconsider that, our transportation director has asked for 6%, and we come back with 0. We was hoping we can get something to try to keep up with the times. But like I say, my name's John Llewellyn, and my company is JLL Transport in Knoxville. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Ms. Courtney, can you read this item?
Approve the fiscal year 2026 general purpose budget at the major category level for $700,485,000.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Christie, second by Mr. Triplett. Do we have any discussion? Ms. Christie.
Dr. Adams, would you like to speak a little bit about the email that was sent to board members and just for the record involving transportation?
Yes. Thank you for that.
Madam Chair, thank you, Ms. Christie. I appreciate that. First, Mr. Llewellyn, I would like to thank you for coming out and speaking tonight. You know how much I greatly appreciate your service and the work that you all do. I do want to mention that in 2022, our contractors were hit with high increased cost as far as gas prices and diesel prices. And as we looked at a very tight budget, some of the conversations we had is how do we reflect on and look at the needs of our contractors? Normally, traditionally, if you look at when the cost of gas and diesel goes up, it's roughly in the summertime, right? And even though we have a tight budget, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to assess the increased cost. And just to give you an example, in 2022, I believe we increased or gave our contractors $450,000 to address their needs. This is in one of those situations where we're going to reflect back, really assess where the costs are. To Mr. Llewellyn's point, he is correct. When you look at the price of the new buses and keeping up with the cost, and we don't know what gasoline's going to do. So that's something that we're certainly going to revisit and bring back some options to the board and just see where we are with our budget and see if we can address those needs.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. Kat, I know you had your light on before, so.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I think it was echoing, that's why I turned it
Oh,
off.
yeah.
Thank you. I am sorry, but what would be the time frame on kind of that?
It would be in the fall.
In the fall?
Mm-hmm.
So they would potentially see that reflection directly to them in the fall?
So in the past, what we did is we adjusted what we gave our contractors. We revisited that in the fall.
Okay, so it'll just be a revisit in the fall?
Yes, and so if we revisit in the fall and whatever steps we took to address that, that would probably come in the fall if we were able to compensate our contractors.
And sorry to be so nitpicky, when you say fall, do you mean August or like November?
It just
Sorry.
depends on what information we find out from it. So when we talk about we're going to reassess it in the summer, normally what we did is in the fall, I'd say it was probably roughly around closer to October when we really had a solid amount of the gas prices and the increased cost. And so we were able to address it at that time.
Okay, thank you.
I had that same question of what does fall mean, so yeah. Dr. Risley?
Thanks. If I could, thank you, Madam Chair. If I could just add a little bit to what Dr. Adams said, any action would be something we have to bring back to the board. And so this budget that we have right now, just so it's clear, like we don't have other money stashed somewhere, right? So this would have to be us looking into the fall, assessing, as Dr. Adams said, and then looking for some cost savings in this current budget to be able to bring something back. So I think just so that's clear, it's not, we have money we'd be shifting from somewhere else. It would probably be some realized savings early in the fall, or maybe some things where we were had some space at that point in the budget. So we don't have the $450,000 right now. To your point, so it would probably be us assessing that through the summer, but it would be something we have to bring back to the board for you all to approve. Because it would be obviously a change to the budget at that point, but. We have, as Dr. Adams said in the past, been able to look at some of those costs. And I'll just say this too. I mean, you guys know we had individual conversations. This was a pretty tight budget this year, and we do. I echo what Dr. Adams said. 100% rely and appreciate all of you contractors that are here, what you do for our kids every day. We couldn't do it without you, and it's great to have this partnership. When we explain to people in other parts of the country how we do this, they're amazed, and it is because of your commitment to our kids, and we do appreciate that. And Ryan Dillingham does a great job bringing those things to us as well. And so we do hear that, and we do want to try to do what we can in that. But it really wasn't an oversight. It was really just us having to make some decisions to be able to keep operations the way they are. But I do think, in good faith, we're going to take a look at that and try to bring something back that you all can take an action on in the fall. And I know that's not September, November. It probably depends on where we have the money, right? When we get to that point. Right now, we don't have it. So it may take us a while to get some months ahead of us to know where we have some savings realized after July 1st.
Thank you. Ms. Templeton?
Yeah, thank you for that, and thank you, Ms. Spike, for this question, because I had the same ones. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think that this is a lot of numbers. So we, as a board, I cannot speak for the board, I can speak to myself. The number of eyes and the number of emails that have come in, just questions and concerns, I think are always helpful because it guides us kind of in the right direction or things that could be better explained to ourselves as well as to the community. So thank you for speaking today, and thank you to everyone who sent emails and queries. And also thank you to the staff for meeting last week because it offered a lot of clarity and I was able to give answers before today. And that was very helpful, so thank you for that. I do have one question, however, in regard to staffing. And I was looking through kind of that cursory glance, top of mind, the schools that I serve. Gresham Middle School losing an assistant principal, and it's the only one losing an assistant principal. I had some initial concerns, primarily because I guess my first question really is how these are allotted, the assistant principals. I can assume that the at-risk population is brought into the equation and the overall population, the sheer numbers. And are those the only two items that are taken into account?
Madam Chair, Ms. Templeton, yes. So the ADM and the at-risk percentage both factor into the formula to allocate assistant principals at the middle school level.
Okay. And I know Gresham right now is at 24% at risk, and it is losing an assistant principal, which will put it at a ratio of about 400 students for one assistant principal. And from what I understand, based on conversations with Principal Glover earlier in the year, they are, and Dr. Brown, you may need to speak to this, they are somewhat of a hub for special education because they have the ability to manage a larger number of special ed, special services kids. Is that accurate? Because I was understanding that I know that their 504s are going up as they are across the county, but curious if that is accurate.
Thank you, Ms. Templeton, Madam Chair. I wouldn't call it a hub.
Okay.
So we have various services. No, it's okay.
Sorry.
They do have some specialty programming there. What we try to do is operate in feeder patterns. And so, I mean, I can say as the former principal at Central High School, they have programs there that align with the programs that are at Central. So those kids, once they get established in a feeder pattern, can continue. But it wouldn't be any different than, let's say, programming we'd see at a Carnes Middle School or a South Doyle Middle School. We have a lot of those specialized programs in lots of schools. And actually, there are other schools that have additional programs that Gresham does not have. So, for instance, Gresham may house a satellite program, satellite from KEC, and a CDC self-contained comprehensive developmental classroom, which is very common in a lot of our schools. But like a Northwest Middle School and a Bearden Middle School, they have an autism-specific program. So they have even additional programming that Gresham does not have.
Okay. And so the percentage of kids that are a higher need, there isn't a large percentage transferring to Gresham for those services as opposed to a Northwest or a Bearden. They don't have, like, that's not, no.
No, because I would say the programs that Gresham had are more common. We have CDC programming and satellite programming in a majority of our middle schools. Actually, they're, probably, like I said, out of the 15 middle schools, 10 of them probably have those programs and 5 may not. So it's really a majority, and most schools have those programming. So there wouldn't be a large influx of students into those,
Right.
that are not zoned students for Gresham already. It's really more of a service to the students in the community of Fountain City for students at Gresham, so they don't have to leave and go to another school.
So they're not students transferring in for that
There
purpose?
may be, again, I would have to look individually to see.
Okay.
But there are programs at Halls, so that we wouldn't get kids from Halls. There are programs at Powell. We would not receive students from Powell Middle School. Whittle Springs, I don't know off the top of my head if they have those programming. But again, so it would just vary. And again, we try to do those as close to the student's base school as possible. So there is a likelihood that there are students who would transfer in, but I wouldn't say that would be a large number.
Okay. The other 24% at risk, and all of the at-risk percentage and up, they have a lower ratio. So like Farragut, which is amazing, has a ratio of 478 students for one assistant principal, but their at-risk population is 3%. So I just want to make sure that we're kind of thinking through all of the needs that are being serviced when we apply across the board. Like, are we catching everything we need to catch? Because if these assistant principals are being, legally, they have to be in every meeting for any kind of services. So do we have enough feet on the ground to do that with this high percentage?
Madam Chair, Ms. Templeton, I think that the answer to that is we believe that we do, applying these staffing allocation formulas. We do have a staffing committee. We're in the third year of the staffing committee that looks at each of these formulas. Did not make any changes this year, so these are the same formulas that we had last year. And this school specifically knew last year, so it was a hold harmless for a year because they dropped out of a higher at-risk percentage tier. So we're told last year that the following year that would be reduced by one assistant principal position. So I had a year to plan for that. But of course, that is something that the staffing committee is continually, if hearing something from our principals, from their principal colleagues, is something that we would continue to continue to evaluate. So I think that can be something that we take to the staffing committee to revisit middle school.
I just think that there are a lot of these contingencies over at Gresham. It's a Title I school. There's a lot happening over there, and to lose a assistant principal, I think, will be painful. And they may have had a year to, plan for it. But just walking those halls and being there, it's important for each one of those grade levels to have a human that they can point to. So especially, like I said, being a Title I school and having special services, I think it's important to take that into consideration with the assistant principals.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Templeton. Do you have any more discussion on this? All right. I want to thank our bus contractors for coming. My own kids have ridden the school bus for many years, and they've had the best bus driver. So thank you for reaching out to us. I know we've had a great relationship over the years, so I appreciate that and all you do for our kids. With that, we'll go ahead and vote on this item. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, I guess moving on then to board forum. Reverend Butler? No? This is a quick meeting. Ms. Templeton, Ms. Fontenot-Ridley, Mr. Triplett, Ms. Pike, Ms. Morgan, Mr. Wright, I almost called you Mr. Travis, Ms. Christie. All right, well, with that, we are adjourned. Thanks for coming out.
That's right.